Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Bucky Kennedy Podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We have a very special guest with us today. It is one of your dear friends and my high school basketball coach. So we are very excited about our conversation today and everything that we are going to talk to them about. But Coach Durden, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, first of all, Mary, boy, what a great day this is because it ain't very often that I get to do this with two of my favorite people. Bucky is a very, very close friend that we've shared so many memories, and you are one of my all-time favorite players that played in my program. So I'm just thrilled and honored to be here today. And like I said, I think this is going to be fun, and I think we're gonna have a really good time. About me a little bit. I have been a head basketball coach now for over 35 years. I started my career in a small school in Thomasville called Brookwood School. There I coached almost everything. I coached boys and girls varsities with both JVs, no assistant. I thought I knew a lot and didn't know anything, but boy, I got a lot of experience and coached every sport from football to baseball to track. So I got a great background there at Brookwood. And then I was lucky enough that the Lord took me to a place that hardly nobody knows about and gets confused. And it's called Dade County. And everybody, when I say Dade County, they think of Florida. But Dade County in Georgia is up near Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's up in the mountains. And boy, was it a great place for me to go. I went into there and went into a great situation with a great girls program that was all about hard work and hard nosed and really cut my teeth there and was very, very successful there. And I was successful because of the kids. We even had a McDonald's All American come out of Dade County. And it's a school that only had like 600 people. So very blessed to have a lot of great committed girls there. And then ended up going from Dade County. I was looking to make a move for my family. I ended up at Buford High School, and I've been at Buford for the last 20 years. And I've been very, very blessed to have a great, successful girls basketball program there. We've been lucky to win 8 state championships here and play in 3 more. I've been blessed to have so many great, wonderful young ladies play for me. And I'm just very, very thankful that the Lord has put me in the path and the career that I went into and the schools that I went to.
Well, Gene, listen, I'm excited because we don't get to see each other often. And somebody asked me the other day, said, "How long have you known Gene Durden?" I said, "All my life. I don't remember much life without you and some other friends that we have there." I mean, so we grew up together and had the privilege. My senior year, we got to play together in high school.
Sure did.
And but there are a lot of other things that we can't talk about today on the show, not because they're bad, it's just we don't have the time to talk about them.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
so one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation, and it is a little different than what we usually do on the podcast, but it's so critical on this because it's a topic that affects everybody right now. It seems like if you have a child, you may deal with this, but from the home to the schools, churches, and it's all athletics. It seems like always going on. And as you just shared your experience and what you've gone on, I thought you'd be the great guy to kind of offer a little perspective and some insight as to what's happening right now in the world of youth athletics and high school athletics with AAU, travel ball, club sports. I mean, it just seems like it continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I was reading the other day, Gene, that their income just from club sports, travel ball, it's a $40 billion industry and it's increased 46% in the last 3 years. That's a massive jump. And that doesn't include high school and rec sports. That's just travel sports. So whenever I tell people, it's about money. It really is. Somebody's figured out a way to make a lot of money here. But in your thing, you've seen this come and go. What are the changes that is really impacted in your career that you've seen? What are the greatest changes that it's made in high school athletics and in youth sports that you've just kind of seen?
Well, Bucky, the great thing is I can kind of offer two perspectives. I can offer the perspective from being a veteran coach that's been coaching all my life for over 35 years and coached at almost every level. The other thing is I can add the perspective is because I raised four kids that were all
Yeah.
involved in athletics. And so to use the word change is just, it's amazing the change that has happened. Now, one thing that I've had to deal with in my career is understanding that change is inevitable. Everything changes, and whether we like it or don't like it. The problem that I see a lot of times is how quickly things are changing and turning around. You mentioned the travel situation. Well, it has taken it by storm. I can remember 25 years ago, maybe longer than that, there was only one girls' AAU team below Macon. As a matter of fact, I helped coach it. It was out of Thomasville. And then everything was around the Macon area and all that. Now AAU it's unbelievable how much it's around and how much it's changed because high school and AAU always talk about this. It's two totally different environments. It really is. And I don't want to get on here and bash AAU or say good or bad because I think AAU it's like anything. There's some great people in AAU trying to do it right. Okay. Trying to help kids. There's also great people in high school that are trying to help kids and do it right. But there's also bad things both ways. Okay. Because you always going to have the good and the bad.
Right.
I think you mentioned the biggest thing that I think is changed is the money. Money is driving it so much now. And it used to be the passion for the sport. It used to be the love for the sport. Well, now it is so much about people making money off kids. And I think that's one of the ways that it kind of goes wrong. You know, I was trying to prep a little bit about talking to sports and how it's changed and all that. I'll give you a great example. 20 years ago, as a high school coach, a player usually had two voices in their head. Okay. They usually had the high school coach and he usually had the parents. That's the two voices that you had to deal with a high school player. Well, now these players have 7 and 8 voices in their head. They've got trainers, AAU coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, high school coaches. And a lot of times these voices are totally different in what they're trying to accomplish. And I say this all the time. If you're a 16-year-old, I coach girls basketball, so I'm going to use an example. If you're a 16-year-old, 15-year-old girl, and you got this voice telling you to do it this way and it's an easier path, you're probably going to choose that path. So it's really complicated now trying to get kids to understand, the right path and choosing the right path because they have so many, I call it the noise. Uh, Mary may remember a little bit in our program. I talk about it even more now that you got to get the noise out of your head and you got to have the people of truth in your head. So that's one way that it's come back. And I could go on and on, but I don't want to dominate the conversation. I know as we go on, we're going to have to find different topics. But like I said, I just the money factor now is a big deal in how it's being driven, of people padding their pockets with it. And like I said, some of it's good people, but some of it can be really, really slimy and not in it for the kids. I can tell you that.
Well, and the other thing too, Gene and Mary, you can speak to this, is because I know how big you are on team. I mean, everybody's going to contribute. Everybody's going to work as hard. I mean, your playing time doesn't determine your value to the team. Your effort and all that kind of goes. You're that guy. I mean, you are the team guy. I remember in high school when we play, you were always pushing team, and so you're that guy. And so, Mary, you can speak to that. He's big on team, isn't he?
He is, very much so.
So, in a culture that really pushes the individual, I mean, when you got transferring and all this kind of stuff, and like you just said, It seems like players now have their individual coach, and they're looking to go to a place in which that can highlight their individual skills. You deal in basketball, but you're talking about you can go volleyball, baseball, football. How do you continue building a team culture in an individual mindset? Because that's got to be difficult.
It is very difficult because a lot of times, first of all, let's talk about this with basketball. Basketball, in my opinion, is one of the most polluted sports. Okay. And why I say that is this. In basketball nowadays, especially, everybody thinks that you're not a great player unless you can score 20 points. Okay. I mean, because you see it with the highlights, you see it on social media that they're not going to go out there and highlight a defensive kid or a kid pulling rebounds or a kid taking charges. It's all about scoring. Okay. So you got to fight that to start with. Okay. Because every parent's telling their kid, you got to shoot the ball and you got to score to get scholarships and you got all this. So the approach that we've taken in our program, first of all, scoring is important. Okay. And Bucky, if you remember, I was never shy about shooting the basketball. So
You
scoring
weren't.
is important.
You
We
weren't.
know that. But the concept that I take is I try to make our players understand that the other things that they do is just as valuable. If you go out there and you take 5 charge attempts, that's just as valuable as somebody scoring 20 points. If you go out there and you're a lockdown defender, if you can hold the other girl that's averaging 20 points to 8 to 10 points, you're just as valuable. If you can go out and pull 10 rebounds, you're just as valuable because basketball is a team sport. It is, tell people all the time, you want to go do something, go play tennis or go wrestle or do something like that. But basketball is still one of the sports that's all about team chemistry and, you don't have to be as talented and everything else. So we try to get our kids to believe that there's value in doing other things on the basketball floor. I think that you've got to take that concept to every other sport now that you're fighting individualism in it with everything else, that you've got to build it. Because Mary's heard this before. I use all the time. The team is our superstar. Team is our superstar. They've heard it. And I've been blessed to coach some great players, not just good players. I've had 2 kids that's won national championships in college. I've had, plenty of D1 players from Tennessee to Notre Dame and all that. So getting these kids to buy into it is really tough. But they've got to understand that they're only good as their teammates. So that's a fight that you fight all the time. We continue to fight it. It's just getting people to understand that you got to have teammates. But think about it. In life, you have to have people with you to succeed. So, and I'm going to make this statement, Bucky. This is one of my favorite statements to make now. And I make parents mad. And I ain't trying to make nobody mad, but this is the truth in my opinion. High school sports has lost its true meaning. High school sports now is about scholarships, rankings, awards and accolades, all those different things. And all those things are fleeting. What high school sports should be about memories, relationships, and preparation for life. What did we start talking out on this podcast with? And I ain't seen you in I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
We was going back over them memories left and right because nobody can take them. Well, high school sports should be about memories and the relationships. Our relationships was started in Midville, but our relationship grew when we played ball together. Okay. So I apologize. I got a light sensor that goes on and off, so it cuts on and back and forth. And then the real thing about a coach now, and I can talk about this too, about goals and purpose, is you got to know your purpose. Your purpose should be to prepare kids for life. So those 3 things stay with you all the time. They can't be taken from you. Memories, relationships, and preparation for life. The other ones that we've now made high school sports about, they come and go. They're gone. So I wish more people really understood that.
Well, and you said it, you come at a couple different perspectives as a parent and as a coach. And, Gene, I remember I always said this about high school sports because I read this every now and then when it talks about high school sports and the pressure on coaches that they have to prepare kids for the next level. That I never heard that when you and I were coming along. They weren't concerned about the next level. They were concerned about us and the teams we were playing presently and the teams on the team. So our deal was we always heard was you're playing for your teammates, you're playing for your community, you're playing for your school. And that's who you're playing for. You're representing the people on your team, the people in your school, and the people in your community. That was a big deal. That we knew that, and we wanted to be successful because we wanted all those people to be proud. But it became about the scholarship. And I say this to parents, and you can say it better because you deal with it all the time, is that's a fool's gold type of chase. I mean, a scholarship it has a big old term. You hear the D1 full ride scholarship, but there aren't a whole lot of full ride scholarships when you start getting those lower levels, and not everybody who plays D1 has a full scholarship. There are partial scholarships. Not all scholarships are the same. And find that way in how you want to go. Let your kid enjoy the sport. Let your kid enjoy their teammates. Take the pressure of a scholarship off the table. And if they get it, it'll be something that's just a result of hard work and the right thing, not the goal. And if a kid can play, a kid can play. And so I agree when you're talking about that main thing, the stress of trying to get to the next level, and making sure their kids get seen. And I think that's a little bit of what Travel Ball offers, for instance, is we can make sure your kid gets in front of the right people. And, it's just that culture's changed. And again, I don't want this to be about bashing travel sports and everything like this, because I think what we're seeing, though, I see it in what I do in ministry as the stress that it puts on a family.
Yes.
The pressure that it puts on the family that they got to get their kid on this club team or this travel team. They're traveling every weekend. I mean, and you're seeing the financial stress, the physical stress, the emotional stress of them feeling like they've got to get their kid seen. So as a parent, how do you talk to other parents about this?
All right, you brought up a lot of good points. Man, we could go for days on this. Let's go to a couple of them. Number one, everybody asks me now, what's changed? Because you're gonna hear two things. You're gonna hear the kids have changed, but a lot of times you hear the parents have changed. Well, I think they both changed. Okay, I do. One thing that you mentioned earlier with the travel ball is this, that a lot of people don't take into consideration. These parents are pumping money in left and right for all these travel teams. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay. Well, with that, they're getting their kids an opportunity to play. Well, then next thing you know, when they go to high school sports, they're not pumping in money. So guess what? Their kids got to perform to play.
Yeah.
So a lot of times these parents can't take that their kid is not playing because they feel like they've invested this much money into their kid, so they need to be playing. Well, that investment don't guarantee on the high school level or the college level that you play. That's one thing that I think hurts parents now, is because of the financial investment that they're putting in their kids, that they think they ought to have this return out of it. And it's not their return, it's their player's return. It's what that kid wants to work for to get out of that sport. So that kind of messes things up a little bit right there too, now with the money being put in it. And going to the money, I say this all the time and people don't want to hear this. Think about Bucky and Mary. If all the time and money was invested in academics instead of athletics, you would probably get that much more money out of it to go to a college by being academically prepared. Because they offer one of the best scholarships that there is academic, not athletic, but academic.
I heard about those. I was never privy to get one of those.
I wasn't either, but you know what? Like my kids, that's what my daughter never paid a dime for college because she's great academically. Okay. So it comes back to the money on that. The other thing I think is hurt really bad, and this is viewpoints too now. Like I said, all these things are opinion. Like you said, I'm going to go back and say travel ball, there's some great people in there. Okay. There's good and bad everywhere you look at. But I think the specialization of sports now is when you got kids being trained and specialized in fourth grade, that's tough. That's tough. We always had the philosophy in our family to try it all. We wanted them to find their passion. Okay. And passion comes in a lot of different ways. And, think about this, Bucky, and I know Mary understands this too. If you were one of Gene Durden's children, what did you expect them to do?
Play basketball.
You daggum right. Oh, your daddy's Gene Durden, you got to play basketball. Okay? That's it. I heard that when my kids were little all the way, oh, God, basketball. Well, I never took that approach. I listened to an old coach one time says, keep them around it and don't force them and let them make their own decisions. Well, my son, Devin, played basketball for a while, but then when he got at Buford, he decided basketball wasn't his football. My son, Christian, was not a great athlete, but he loved to play football. And Christian's passion early when we was at Dade County was showing cows. But we supported that the same way as him out there playing basketball or anything. We made that a big deal. He played football. My daughter, one of the funniest things in the world, I wish I could go into the story, was I loaded up one time here at Buford and did a 3-day boot camp at Shorter College. We did nothing but sun up, sun down basketball. And my daughter was like an 8th grader, 7th or 8th grader. She come back 2 weeks later and said, Daddy, I love you, but y'all work too hard. I ain't playing. So I'm one of the only coaches that probably run his daughter off from playing basketball. And then my kid that had a passion for basketball was my son Kobe, which coaches with me now. I mean, he loved basketball and still loves it. He was this morning at 4:30, 4:45 playing basketball. And so, our rule was to find your passion, find what you're passionate about, and then give everything you got. And now with specialization with these kids, I see so many of them that they throw away, they've specialized in one sport. And they do it in basketball too now, so I'm not cutting that down. I have plenty of kids that they don't do anything else but basketball, and that's fine, whatever. But they throw all their eggs in a basket for their high school situation and only play one sport, and then get to college and find out that ain't even what I want to do and quit. Now you've given up all your high school memories and time and relationships, all that stuff for one thing. And I just think that I wish parents let kids enjoy other stuff more. Mary, right there. Mary was a volleyball player. Mary, how many times you see me come watch you play volleyball?
Almost every home game.
Absolutely. I'm happy that my kids in basketball did other things, and I try to support them. I may be one of everybody thinks I'm just basketball 24/7, but I like to watch them do other things because Bucky, we didn't specialize. We did everything. I mean, we was out doing stuff all the time. I just think that hurts kids too when you start putting them on this path and they don't even have a chance to pick maybe another path that they might want to go to. And you get into this too. Like I see girls that won't play basketball because they're involved in another sport, and that's fine, but they think, okay, I got to do so much in basketball to be accepted by this group. No, our basketball program is for anybody. If you want to come be a part of high school, then come be a part of high school. Now, what keeps us from having high numbers is we work really, really, really hard, and we have very, very high expectations and standards. And so that's why our numbers are limited now, is just kids don't want to work as much and they don't want to be committed as much. So I could go on and on.
Well, we talked about that with Mary and saying, because we see the same thing everywhere, Gene. The high schools I'm at is that, and you started off is the path of least resistance. I mean, whatever is easiest and comfortable and least costly, I would say that. as far as the emotional and physical cost. So, I mean, Mary, you played volleyball and basketball. Was there a difference in the effort given to one over the other?
There was there was a different expectation within the different programs and the different teams that I played for. I would like to say that the effort I gave was the same, but I think even playing in your program, the standard that y'all raised and the expectation that you had set the standard for everything else that I did. And I think that even speaks to the life lessons, how you're preparing us for life, not just to be able to play a game. And how I remember one thing that y'all would say all the time that has stuck with me is the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so if that's the standard that I'm going to play at in this program, why would I lower my standard in another one? And why would I lower my standard in this area of my life because it's more convenient, but hold to a standard when I'm around other people, when I'm around this coach versus that coach? And I think that's even some of what you talk about when you talk about all those voices, all of the noise, the different coaches that you play for, is that these kids have different expectations in the different places they play. And so rather than playing at the same standard everywhere and being the best person and player that they can be, they're just playing to the standard that is expected of them on one team because it's easier. And then they don't know how to play to the standard of another team and reach their potential because it's not asked of them everywhere they go. And that's why it's hard to pull out of kids the highest standard because it's not being asked of them. But that was one of the biggest lessons, and there are so many that I learned, but that my effort, you asked about my effort, the standard and the expectation was different, but my effort was, I think, the same because I wanted to do everything the way I did in one area that was that very high expectation because it was an expectation of excellence and integrity.
And at Buford, I mean, just so our folks that don't know about Buford, and Buford's an interesting and unique school too because the expectations are so high there. I mean, in every sport, that it's not that you just compete but succeed. I mean, so when you talk about Buford, they expect success from basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, soccer, tennis, whatever sport it is. They're always expected to be in the hunt for a championship. And so that's a culture that's kind of Buford's known for. So it's not like championships are rare where you guys are at. Y'all are in a culture of championships, I'd say it. And so but academically too. I mean, there are high expectations academically at Buford. The arts are very important at Buford. It's not just that athletics rule. I mean, excellence is just the culture that Buford has, and I think that's a good thing for Buford, and that you've certainly been a part of, Gene, as a coach there. But you know that as that culture there exists in every level. So, but let's go back to this topic of when are kids going to get rest? Because I mean, if everything's specialized, and again, people roll back their eyes a little bit when you say, well, I remember playing and we were involved in everything. But the other thing that I remember having was we had summers. It doesn't seem like they're getting summers anymore. They're not, they're dead weeks. But there doesn't seem, where does the rest occur? Because they're starting at a young age and they're constantly under physical stress, which creates every other kind of stress. So, Gene, I guess that for me, I'm watching it happen in families. Families are stressed to the max. Where does the rest come in? And how important is that for a player or anybody?
You're hitting on a subject. First, let me take a step back. I want to tell you what Mary said is true. I watched Mary play volleyball, and the same standard that she set it for in our basketball program, she set the same way when she walked out on the volleyball floor. And those things right there is what makes me proud. We can have all the championships and all we want, but when you have a young lady talking about that, okay, the program affected her with this, and this, that's the championship. You want champion people. You don't want championships. Okay. And she's telling the truth. Okay. She'd give everything she had around there. That's something to be very, very proud of. And I'm proud of her and just the woman that she's become, because that's what every coach. I'm gonna before I go into that, I think this is important to hear, and I think this goes into a lot of life. I think a coach will change totally when they find out the difference between their goals and their purpose.
Mm.
It is great to have goals. It can be great to have championships. It's great to have undefeated seasons and all that. But when coach, this is what really helped me a lot, is when I found out that my purpose was to impact lives. Okay. So many coaches don't ever distinguish between goals and purpose. And that hurts a lot. And I think that any coaches out there listening, or anybody that works with young people, that you'll understand that it's okay to have goals for championships and all those things. But man, when you really find out what your purpose is in life, and as a coach, that's what it's all about. Going back to what you said with the rest, that is a huge, huge thing that I think is probably one of the most undervalued situations. When you're specializing, especially in sports, you're using the same muscle groups over and over. But one of the things that's been shown with multiple sport athletes is they're not always stressing the same muscles and same ligaments and tendons and everything else. Basketball players, the way they run, the way they do, is they're going to move pretty much the same. But if you take volleyball and add it to basketball, you're training a whole different group of muscles. Okay. So we're losing that when you specialize. And so the wear and tear on kids are more and more. You're seeing more baseball players when they're starting out pitching, uh, blowing their elbows out, everything else. You're seeing so many kids. I think in basketball, a lot of times by the time they get done with AAU and high school, that's why you see a lot of injuries in college, and the kids that come out because their bodies are worn out. I think that you've got to try to find rest. And you're looking at a coach right now that there's nobody that drives more hours. And summertime, we've got this schedule, and we start the season out, we're going 6 days a week. But you got to find that happy medium of resting your body, because if you don't rest your body, you're not going to have any growth. Um, it's hard. I tell you one thing, and I don't want to get on the religious part side. I know you're a preacher, Bucky, and I respect that so
Go
much.
right ahead. You won't bother me.
But it kills me now when you see people that have their kids in sports on Sunday. I don't believe in that. I don't. I tried to veer away with that with my kids. I just think that that's a day of rest, and it should be a day of rest. And there's one day to get your body back, but you see so many tournaments now that they're playing on Sundays, and I don't. That's something as a coach I don't agree with. I just think that that's a time that you need to rest. Off season, there's things like right now we got through with basketball. Well, I'm trying not to encourage them kids to come back. We're doing some speed and agility training in the morning, but we're training different movements. We're training different things. So I think that's something that a parent really has to look at. And sometimes you got to say enough's enough. And you know what? I think a kid too, the other part of that is this: a kid needs to be a kid. What was we talking about earlier?
Yeah.
We weren't talking about just basketball. We talking about catching alligators and running around and doing those things.
Yeah.
Now, this leads to an interesting thing that I was talking about this morning. Okay, this is very interesting. Nowadays, you have to train kids so much more with batting training. And like I told you about, we're doing speed and agility and all that because we didn't have to. We didn't need a weight training situation because we was in summertime, we're baling hay and working on the farm and doing all that. We're climbing trees, we're jumping over fences, we're doing all this stuff. Kids now don't get that stuff. We're trying to teach our girls this morning was in at 5:30 this morning, teaching how to run properly and movements and everything else that we didn't have to worry about. So it is kind of a crazy situation because you got to train kids now because they didn't go out and play pickup basketball like we did for hours and hours and hours. So it's I think you just got to find that happy medium where you're trying to help your kid, but not at their expense. And so many parents don't get this. It's your kid's journey, not yours.
Yes.
That is huge.
I tell my kids all the time, I learned agility dodging a Wesley Hodges ragtag throw. That son of a gun brought
Absolutely.
some heat.
Now you either you got fried, and let me tell you what, you'd have a whelp on your body, or you learned to dodge that
That's
rag.
exactly right. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know ragtag, that's a knotted up wet T-shirt coming at you at a high speed, and it would hurt. So you learned agility.
We made an art out of playing ragtag. I can promise you that.
So, Gene, we need to kind of start getting it down here, but there's some things here that we talked about. And again, the issue was not to say this is all bad, this is all good, but you're in this world. What are some boundaries that you would like to see? I don't know whether they come out of, for us in the state of Georgia, that'd be GHSA, but right now there seems to be no regulation, there's not a season anymore. I mean, for the specialization, there's just a year-round activity. There's not any boundaries. There's nothing out there. And parents, and I talk to parents all the time, they go, we just don't seem to have any options. Well, you do have an option. You're the parent. You're the parent. And if you're paying, I said, especially if you're paying, you're a customer. So don't ever quit being a parent. Your child needs you to advocate for them, because kids, they're going to go. So somebody's got to be the adult. Somebody's got to be the voice of reason. You talk about voices, and I think that's really crucial, that parents need to understand they need to be the voice. What happens there? If you're talking to a parent right now and they're sitting there telling you, so it just seems like it's always there, that we can't get away. We can't get away on Sundays because they're playing this thing. And I said, so let me get this straight. Are they playing for a national title or a state championship? What are they playing for? They're playing for a tournament trophy. And listen, my trophies are all gone, Gene. I mean, I had a bunch of them. I can't find them anymore. So they're playing for a tournament trophy. So what is the pressure? So how do you talk to a parent who just feels like, I've got to do this?
This goes back to the coach, okay? Because I know exactly what parents are talking about. There's a lot of times that in travel, high school, whatever, I mean, because like I said, always remember it's good and bad and everything, okay?
Right.
But so many times, like in these travel situations, if they say, okay, we're not playing on Sunday, well, you know what that coach is going to do? They're going to not play that kid. So they put kids in a bind.
Right.
My idea is to find the right coach that cares more about the kid than about winning. If I got, like right now, if I have something going on in the summertime, okay, first of all, I have so much in summertime that, you know what, if a kid misses, it ain't no big deal. But say Mary's playing for me in summertime and her daddy Jay comes up and says, all right, coach, we're going to church camp. Matter of fact, I think this happened with
I
Mary.
think it did at some point.
Yeah. We're going to church camp. You know what I'm going to tell that kid? Go. You need to go. You need to go. We got plenty of basketball. I just think these coaches a lot of times handcuff kids with a lot of stuff, and parents feel like they can't do this. But you said the truth. Parents are the ones in control. But a lot of times they don't take that control. And a parent has to do what they think's best for their child. How in the world am I going to argue with a parent if they come up and say, Coach, you know what? Mary's physically exhausted. She needs to take this day. Well, if I care anything about Mary, I'm going to listen to that parent and I'm going to know, okay, Mary, and I'm going to know if Mary needs that day. There's a lot of parents that play the other card too, that, okay, well, we're going to not be here for this, and then find out that they're doing nothing, you know, they could be there. So it goes both ways, but I just think it's a really slippery slope. I think parents have to be in control, and I think parents have to take this part and they've got to try to help control it, because the athlete a lot of times is not going to be the best situation. But it also goes back to this. What is the parents' motives? Because I see so many parents, I think, that try to live through their kids. And that's one thing that me and my wife did a really good job of. My son was a basketball player, Kobe. Everybody would have thought I'd been as animated as I am on the sideline and all. I went to Kobe's basketball games and I said basically two things. I would scream, play defense and rebound. That's it. Matter of fact, Kobe was a situation that he could do 100 things right. If I said he did one thing wrong, it killed him. So guess what I didn't do? I didn't say anything to him, because my relationship with him is more important than him as a basketball player. I would not risk my relationship with my son because of athletics. And I see so many people that do that. And because, one of my greatest things was, Bucky, at one time, is I wanted to coach my boys. Okay. I didn't really say girls. I said my boys. I wanted to coach them. Then I coached Devin in AAU for a little bit. And I said, we don't need to do this because this is going to destroy our relationship. I was strong enough that I could see the difference between being coach and daddy. Okay. But they wasn't strong enough to see the difference between player and son. So you know what I do? That's one reason I went to Buford. I stepped back, gave them somebody else, and got out of the way. And so my favorite thing to say to my kids, make yourself so good that a coach has got to play you. They came whining, I didn't want to hear nothing. It's all you. It ain't me. I ain't living my dream through you.
Wow. Man, this has been a lot of good stuff, Gene. And I want to close with one final thing. I would guess that you probably have all the numbers of the right now top 10 coaches in the country right now. I would probably say you got them on your phone. And I know you spend a lot of time talking to these guys and ladies a good bit. Do they have some of these concerns that you're expressing today, or some of the things when they talk to you and you talk to them? Because I know you're always learning. You're always calling people and finding out stuff and what's working and what's not working, and you're hearing the concerns of the elite coaches in our country. Are they having these same conversations?
So funny you said that. I was on the phone with a college coach 2 hours ago, and she was like, I don't know if I can do this. The NIL stuff and everything's changing. That landscape is changing too, changing big time. And excuse me, getting my lights to come back on. They have major concerns. Bucky, I wish I could tell you this, but I couldn't tell you who they are. Probably 8 to 10 years ago, I probably had, because I had some pretty high profile kids at that time being recruited. And I probably had, and these are SEC and ACC head coaches, not assistant coaches now, that sat in my office, because I'm an old dinosaur, so I got relationships with a lot of them. And we would sit in there and they would talk about the landscape that college had created, that now it was out of control, and how that the AAU and a lot of this stuff was what they invested in, and now they're getting the product out of this and they're not real satisfied about it. Now, they would never say that, guess what? Out in the open, but behind closed doors, it was so many of them. And that's one of the reasons too. Now college has changed, and don't ever forget that everything filters down.
Yes.
Everything from the pros filters to college, and everything from college filters to the high school. And now you got, I told somebody the other day, college is not college anymore. It's pros. The transfer
Yes.
portal is nothing more than free agency.
Yes.
NIL is nothing more than paying kids. You can't run systems. You can't, because you got 5 or 6 new kids every year. It's like a professional team. And then high school, in my opinion, is like college, because you got a lot of high school coaches out there that, in my opinion, can't coach anymore. All they try to do is recruit the best players and try to manage them and do what they can do and try to win championships. So everything's filtered down. It's went there. So I don't know what's the landscape. I don't know what's going to happen. I just hope that the good people will still continue to fight the good fight and do it the right way. I think everybody needs mentors out there. I think more coaches need to mentor more younger coaches. I think that we need to have better communication with parents. I over communicate. I have meetings. I'm meeting all the time with my parents to try to talk to them about college landscape, high school landscape, and all. I just, like I said, sports is a part of our fabric in society, and it's something that we got to continue to work on. We got to continue to build on, and I just hope that parents will do what's best for their kid.
Mm. Well, there's a lot of stuff here, Mary.
There's a lot of really good stuff.
I mean, so you got to spend some time with your former coach there. What were some of your takeaways from today?
It was so nice. Just everything that you said was so familiar to what I used to hear all the time in high school. And I will attest to what he said, speaking from experience, and the heart that you have for your players, and that it is so much bigger than their sport. And we talked so much about what would we say to players today, what would we say to parents. And I'll personally attest from experience that it was the memories and the life lessons that made the greatest impact on my life in that season of my life. And it isn't about the titles. I got some of those titles while I was there and it was awesome, but I remember more the memories on the way there than the trophy that I have that collects dust. And that's what you told us all the time. The trophies collect dust, but the memories will stay with you forever. And what you talked about, the noise and that the team is the superstar. And as I'm listening, as I was listening in high school, and what made it so worth it to me is that I knew that y'all's heart was that it is so much bigger than basketball, and that all of the parallels that you can take towards the rest of your life, that the team is the superstar in the same way that the body of Christ is the superstar, and that we are all a functional member of the body, and that we are all important. One is not more important than the other. And the controllable factors of, if you can defend and you can rebound, that's just important as scoring, in the same way that we all have important roles, and so many of our roles are those controllable factors. That is a reflection of our attitude and our effort, not the points that we put on the board. So I enjoyed listening to what felt so reminiscent of a very impactful season of my life, but I'll attest to all the parents and all of the players, anyone who listens to this, that it is tried and true, and the success and the impact is not the seasons that we had and the titles that we got, or the success that we had in that way, but it was the impact that it made on my life and how I used that to learn how to be that better person. So,
Well, and I was certainly glad, Gene, to hear what you said, because, I mean, this is going to be a different podcast than we usually do at Bucky Kennedy Ministries. We're usually recapping sermons and stuff like this, but I felt like this, and I trusted you and your insights to help parents, and very rarely do they get a perspective other than, because parents are hearing voices too. I mean, they got tons of voices in their head. And, I was talking to a parent the other day, and he was talking about, man, we just got another star. And I said, well, how much did you pay for that star? So, I mean, because the rating systems and all that, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so I just said, I'm going to call Gene up, because I really know that he's in this world and he knows what he's talking about. So he has credibility. And plus, I just wanted to see you and have a conversation with you. One day we could do a whole podcast about catching gators and ragtag and all kind of stuff. We could do that, but I appreciate you taking time on your anniversary. This won't come out on your anniversary, but happy anniversary. And but I do appreciate you, brother, and thank you for your time and your insight. And look forward to getting over to Buford one day, and I'll take you out to lunch or something.
Bucky, you don't know how much I appreciate. Like I said, I started it off with this. I'll end it with this. Two of my favorite people in the world. Mary is an unbelievable, outstanding young lady that I'm very proud of. And like I said, her dad is going to be at my games no matter what. He's going to be sitting right there. Matter of fact, I'm going to surprise him, Mary, with something. So, like I said, he is a special man. Love their family. Bucky, it is so good to see you. This is going to sound cliche and bad, but I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you with the lives you're influencing and touching. Little did we know back many years ago, sitting in a little small town, where your career would go and where my career would go, and we'd be doing this today. But Lord works in a lot of great ways, and I'm just thankful to spend this and try to share all the stuff I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm right about. Believe me, I'm learning every day. I try to get better every day. I try to grow every day. But it was so great to share opinions and thoughts and everything else with two of my favorite people, and I
Well,
would love to do it anytime you want to.
well, thank you. And, Gene, I just tell people, and you understand this because we grew up in that same place, live a life that can only be explained by God did it.
Woo!
And
That's a great statement there, brother.
knowing where we came from and out of, I mean, you and I both know if it weren't for God, we couldn't do it. And
I
I'm living a life that only God could give me. And I think
guarantee
you'd
you,
say the same thing.
I said it. He put me in the right places at the right time, and that's what I owe all of my success to is him. And because if he hadn't put me in those places, it definitely wouldn't have happened the way it happened. So just thankful. But boy, this has been enjoyable, and I really had a great time.
Well, thank you. Well, Mary, I'm going to let you close us out here and do what you do really well. And so, again, Gene, thank you. And hopefully people enjoy this podcast. I mean, there's a lot of gold here. The difference between purpose and goals, man, I'm going to preach that. That'll preach all day long. So I'm going to do that. But, thank you for listening to the Bucky Kennedy Podcast, Mary. We got other stuff coming up. We're still in Ephesians.
We are still in Ephesians, so next week we'll have our sermon recap as usual. Maybe we'll hear more about those purpose and goals.
Yeah.
But for people who are normally listening to our sermon recaps, can you give us a quick preview for what we'll get back into next week?
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about Ephesians 3:20, that God is able to do abundantly more than we're able to think or ask. And that's a big statement. And so we're going to talk about that. And it's such a good, it's the timing of this sermon and this text is super cool because of some things that are happening in our church that we're going to need God to do more than we can ask or think. And he has blessed us here at North Hall Church and the reach that we've had and the ministry that we're able to do. So it's going to be a good day, but it's such a great text to talk about. And so that's next week, though.
Well, I know everyone will be looking forward to that. I wanted to say thank you all for sharing your wisdom, your experience. All of the jokes that they were making beforehand is all true. I was hearing lots of stories about the diving board and the alligator wrestling.
They're all true.
I believe them. But it was a joy to get to listen, and I hope all of y'all enjoyed this, and please join us again next week.
For more content like today's podcast, click right here. For sermons, click right here. And again, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Have a blessed day.